More than 100 advanced Russian T-90M tanks, the pride of the Kremlin's armored divisions, are now smoldering steel across eastern Ukraine, obliterated in just a few days of intense fighting. Their planned armored breakthrough was completely shattered, leaving behind nothing but a smoking graveyard, stunning analysts worldwide, and exposing critical flaws in the Kremlin's modern tactical doctrine. The T-90M, engineered to survive Western javelins and light armor weapons, was hyped as invincible. But across the open fields of Donetsk, these $4 million machines were completely shredded by cheap drones, concealed minefields, and layered defensive lines. The sheer scale of these losses is staggering. Confirmed intelligence reports over 1,100 Russian tanks destroyed by September 2025, including over 100 T-90Ms. Drones alone accounted for up to 70% of heavy armor losses in key sectors, a clear signal that warfare has changed forever. A single $200 drone, neutralizing a multi-million-dollar main battle tank, proves that the economics of war are being rewritten. If you and I analyze these tactical reports, we see this is far more than a standard military clash. It is a stark warning that heavy armor, once the undisputed king of the battlefield, no longer guarantees a breakthrough. The urgent question for every commander right now is simple: can heavy armor survive this new era of drone warfare? Or has combat permanently shifted to a reality where cheap tech dictates the front lines? The enemy launched a massive offensive in Donetsk, pushing their advanced T-90M tanks alongside BMPs, infantry carriers, and mechanized troops to punch through Ukrainian defensive lines. In late September 2025, Russian commanders committed these assets to the field, desperate to reverse years of tactical failures. This was no random probe. It was a highly coordinated offensive, with Russian leadership betting everything on pure mechanical mass to crush the defenders. The upgraded T-90M, fitted with advanced explosive reactive armor, was designated to spearhead this assault. Heavy combat support was provided by BMP fighting vehicles and troop transports packed with infantry. The Kremlin staff assumed this combined arms force could breach any defensive line, seizing strategic junctions near Kupiansk to secure vital logistics routes. But their confidence went far beyond mere steel. It was driven by intense propaganda from state media, which heralded the T-90M as invincible, engineered to deflect advanced Western systems like Javelin and NLAW missiles. State media outlets like TASS hyped up the active protection systems, claiming this platform was a true game-changer against heavy anti-armor systems. They broadcasted rig tests, showing the tank surviving direct missile impacts, assuring the public of absolute battlefield dominance. It was a carefully crafted narrative of unstoppable power designed to intimidate. But that narrative hid fatal flaws in Russian command decisions. If you and I analyze their tactical plan, we see they relied on old Soviet doctrine: throw heavy armor forward first. This rigid, Cold War-style strategy prioritized raw numbers over real-time intelligence. We observed columns of T-90Ms moving along highly predictable routes, attempting to steamroll the defense, while BMPs attempted to shield troops waiting to exploit any openings. In one sector near Donetsk, our radar tracked an enemy column of over 20 vehicles pushing forward in a single wave. But this completely ignored the brutal realities of the modern arena, where precision technology routinely defeats brute force. Our allied intelligence partners flagged this immediately, noting the enemy was repeating the exact same errors of 2022. Strategic intelligence assessments from the Center for Strategic and International Studies confirmed that deploying mass armor without counter-drone coverage or advanced scouting leaves these units completely exposed to fast-moving defense tactics. Field reports from 2025 emphasize how severely the enemy command underestimated Ukrainian tactical flexibility, falsely assuming that sheer weight of numbers would guarantee success. That arrogance set up a slaughter, because the defending forces had already laid a lethal trap. The hard data is undeniable. The enemy has written off over 22,000 heavy assets since day one, with frontline tanks like the T-90M leading the casualty list. If you and I look at Oryx's verified data, in 2025 alone, they sacrificed hundreds of vehicles in Donetsk, trying to force a breakthrough. Every failed assault simply stacks more charred armor in the dirt. How does a supposedly elite military miscalculate this badly? To see why this offensive collapsed, we must analyze Kyiv's brilliant tactical preparations, which effectively turned Donetsk into a graveyard for Russian armor. Ukrainian forces transformed Donetsk into a kill zone using a sophisticated multi-tiered defense network that integrates continuous aerial surveillance, concealed minefields, and heavy Western-supplied anti-armor weaponry. The operation begins with recon drones charting the battle space, mapping every approach to establish clear, pre-planned fire zones for incoming columns. These unmanned aerial assets, operating 24/7, feed live targeting data to command posts, tracking every single hostile movement. Ukrainian units utilized high-resolution feeds to target enemy armor near Kupiansk, allowing them to coordinate precise counterstrikes long before hostile forces arrived. On the ground, combat engineers silently saturated key transit routes with anti-tank mines, converting open fields into lethal choke points. These explosives, many 3D printed for rapid deployment, were masterfully hidden, with battlefield footage later released by Kyiv to demonstrate the sheer scale of the destruction. In one clip, a mine completely vaporizes a Russian armored vehicle, sending shockwaves that freeze the entire advancing column. Furthermore, Ukrainian operators positioned advanced Javelin and NLAW missiles at key firing points, ready to lock onto incoming armor. These weapons, leveraging highly lethal fire and forget capability, allow infantry to strike targets kilometers away, instantly neutralizing the heaviest main battle tanks. Heavy artillery assets, including Western howitzers, were pre-registered on key grid coordinates, utilizing drone telemetry for maximum lethality. Gunners used live coordinates from UAVs to hammer a Russian convoy heading into Donetsk, neutralizing several armored vehicles before they could ever deploy to the front. Anchoring this defense, Western-supplied Leopard 2 tanks, Abrams and Bradley fighting vehicles, stood by as a mobile reserve, ready to counterattack. The battle-hardened 47th Mechanized Brigade deployed these assets, with Bradley chain guns proving lethal against lighter Russian armor in recent skirmishes. This integrated network of drones, minefields, guided missiles, and heavy artillery formed a lethal dragnet, turning every Russian thrust into a target-rich environment. Far from traditional static trench lines, Kyiv utilized a highly dynamic defense strategy, fusing tactical technology with planning to outmaneuver a numerically superior foe. This defense in depth ensured that if one barrier failed, redundant assets stepped in, leaving absolutely no vulnerabilities to exploit. If a main battle tank bypassed a mine, a javelin team or heavy artillery stood ready to finish the kill. This doctrine was not improvised. It represents months of tactical planning, with Kyiv integrating hard-learned lessons from prior engagements to refine their doctrine. By September 2025, these defenses proved so devastating that Russia lost over 22,000 equipment assets, including hundreds of tanks. According to Oryx's verified data, drones alone claimed 60 to 70% of Russian armor losses in hot sectors, highlighting Kyiv's massive technological advantage, as documented by the Royal United Services Institute in August 2025. This layered defense did more than just hold the line. It transformed the Donetsk sector into a graveyard for Moscow's ambitions, exposing their fatal reliance on brute force. Looking at this battlefield, which capability, drones, mines, or precision missiles, do you analyze as the decisive factor? Now, let us look at how this trap was sprung, completely annihilating Russia's vanguard of armor and infantry in just minutes. Kyiv's layered defensive network snapped shut, crushing the initial Russian assault through a coordinated matrix of drones, mines, and the 47th Brigade's violent counterattacks. When Russian armor entered Donetsk, a T-90M tank spearheading the assault hammered Ukrainian defensive positions, but an FPV drone dove from the sky, impacting its turret with absolute precision. The blast triggered a catastrophic ammunition cook-off, engulfing the vehicle in a massive fireball, leaving the tank a burning wreck. Instantly, a second T-90M pushed forward, attempting to regain the initiative. Instead, it struck a concealed heavy mine, sparking a massive detonation that completely tore the chassis apart. Debris rained across the kill zone, leaving 0 survivors and delivering another devastating blow to Moscow's armored spearhead. Then, we just received footage of a Russian armored carrier, packed with over 12 troops, attempting to pull back after dismounting. It struck a hidden mine, triggering a massive, fatal detonation. Battlefield reports confirm the blast wiped out every single soldier on board, instantly crippling Moscow's capacity to reinforce their infantry assault. The 47th Mechanized Brigade capitalized immediately, deploying Bradley fighting vehicles to shred hostile trenches and fortified bunkers with devastating autocannon fire. Our drone feeds show quadcopters hunting down the fleeing survivors, offering them zero escape across this ruined sector. The sheer violence broke their resolve. One isolated Russian infantryman threw up his hands and surrendered. But this rapid defense was about far more than just raw firepower. Let us look closer. It was a masterclass in combined arms, sinking drone strikes with armored units. Every action was calculated, as the 47th exploited the chaos of minefields and airstrikes to seize absolute battlefield control. This victory cost Russia dearly, with analysts tracking over 1,159 tanks destroyed by September 2025, including dozens of advanced T-90M models. The psychological impact is devastating. Seeing their vanguard armor incinerated, Russian forces are facing a severe morale crisis, turning every advance into a suicide run. Ukraine's capacity to turn an aggressive push into a slaughter proves that superior tech and coordination will always defeat raw numbers. If you are seeing how drones and Bradleys are rewriting warfare, drop a like and comment below. Tell me, which system do you think dominated the battlefield here? With their first wave smashed, we are tracking how Moscow attempted to retaliate with air power, only to fly straight into the same lethal traps. Russian commanders escalated, launching intense airstrikes and attack helicopters to suppress defensive lines. Instead, their assets slammed into the same prepared kill zones, compounding their losses in a spiral of defeat. Following the collapse of their armor columns, Moscow pivoted, releasing heavy glide bombs from tactical jets to soften defensive strongpoints ahead of their next assault. These high-altitude precision munitions were designed to punch through hardened bunkers and critical command nodes. In Donetsk, low-flying attack helicopters launched unguided rockets, attempting to pave a path for their armor by suppressing frontline strongpoints. However, these low-flying aircraft quickly became prey as Ukrainian air defenders, armed with shoulder-fired missiles, locked on from miles away. Behind them, secondary waves of infantry fighting vehicles and troop carriers pushed ahead, counting on air superiority to shield them. Instead, they hit the same wall. Concealed minefields detonated directly beneath them, shredding hulls while suicide drones dived from the sky, striking with pinpoint lethality. We saw one 5-vehicle column near Donetsk hit a minefield. 2 vehicles vaporized instantly, leaving the remaining 3 pinned by relentless drone strikes. This tactical doctrine is highly disciplined. They wait for Russian forces to overcommit, then strike, minimizing friendly casualties while maximizing enemy attrition. This defensive strategy demands absolute operational patience, allowing hostile columns to overextend before hitting them with concentrated, combined firepower. Tactical commanders use live aerial surveillance feeds to guide artillery, ensuring rounds impact precisely when the enemy is completely exposed. This asymmetric approach avoids costly close-quarters engagements, preserving friendly lives while systematically draining Moscow's combat power. The trend is undeniable. The more assets the Kremlin throws into this sector, the worse their tactical failures become. This defense exposes a critical flaw in Russian doctrine: their inability to adapt as combined operations fracture against fortified, pre-planned defensive lines. The psychological shock is immense. Aviators and armored crews who expected total dominance are now paralyzed by the constant threat of unseen threats. Ukraine's capacity to defeat air power with ground-based networks signals a massive shift in modern warfare, where high-tech aviation is neutralized by agile, decentralized defenses. With their heavy armor burning, Moscow has resorted to a desperate tactical shift, betting that raw speed can achieve what armor could not. They are now deploying quad bikes and lightweight dirt bikes, hoping to blitz past defensive lines before we can target them. But precision drone strikes are obliterating these unarmored units instantly. With their heavy columns and air support completely neutralized, let's analyze how their command is forced to rely on unarmored bikes to bypass fortified minefields. Our assets report hostile light vehicles, packed with troops and anti-tank weapons, attempting to bypass Ukrainian defenses across Donetsk's rugged terrain. The tactical concept was simple: exploit speed to outrun reconnaissance drones, strike critical strongpoints, and break Ukrainian lines before armored columns commit. However, Ukrainian surveillance drones holding high altitude picked up the enemy's dust trails from miles out, establishing target locks with absolute precision. Agile, weaponized FPV attack drones were immediately vectored in, diving on the high-speed targets and scoring catastrophic direct hits, reducing the advance to burning wreckage. During a fierce engagement near Bahadur in March 2025, Ukrainian forces neutralized 15 motorcycles and eliminated 40 hostile personnel within minutes, all documented by aerial feeds. Surviving hostile infantry broke formation, seeking cover under blazing wreckage or fleeing toward abandoned structures. Many attempted to dig into shallow trenches, but drone operators executed precise payload drops, eliminating entire fire teams instantly. This persistent sweep denied them any sanctuary. Troops reaching structural ruins were targeted by cluster munitions, obliterating the strongpoints. This defense was about intelligence, not just ordnance. It proved Ukrainian tactical flexibility, leveraging low-cost tech to completely dismantle the Kremlin's desperate battlefield adaptations. These motorcycle squads, designed to bypass traditional defenses, became sitting ducks, their velocity neutralized by instant aerial adjustments. We observed another wave of 8 bikes trying evasive, zigzag maneuvers to break contact. But Ukrainian operators maintained visual contact, deploying ordnance that left the vehicles twisted and burning. Enemy troops, expecting a rapid penetration, were left completely exposed, hunted by relentless, low-flying aerial assets. Shattered equipment, littering the Donetsk sector, remains a grim testament to this tactical failure. Contemporary operations reward brains over brawn. This action confirms that Moscow's high-risk maneuvers cannot penetrate a dense, multi-layered defensive shield, ending in total disaster. As the offensive lines collapse, let us analyze the strategic landscape and determine what this tactical defeat means for the Kremlin's long-term war efforts. The total destruction of a hostile T-90M armored column in Donetsk offers a harsh lesson. Mass and expensive platforms no longer guarantee tactical success. A coordinated defense utilizing low-cost drones, concealed minefields, precision artillery, and Western-supplied Bradley fighting vehicles completely smashed Moscow's primary assault force. This is more than a simple operational setback. It is a clear signal that their heavy armor doctrine, inherited from the Soviet era, is collapsing against high-tech modern combat. An FPV strike near Kupiansk destroyed a T-90M, proving a $200 weapon can kill a $4 million asset. This engagement exposed structural weaknesses in Moscow's offensive capability, denting their projection of power and reinforcing Western strategic support. But the strategic dilemma remains. Will the Kremlin continue committing T-90 units to overwhelm active defenses? Or will they adapt their manual to counter electronic warfare and precision drone strikes? Their response will define the future of armored operations as heavy main battle tanks confront agile threat vectors. If Ukrainian forces maintain Western logistics, including F-16 jets and ATACMS missiles, they could force a tactical recalculation from Moscow. Should Russia escalate further with tactical aviation or heavy drone swarms, the theater of operations may expand, destabilizing the entire European continent. What is your assessment? Are main battle tanks obsolete, or can they adapt to survive this new drone epic? File your report in the comments. We will monitor these developments closely. How do you see this tactical shift shaping the future of global conflict?